to another episode of So-Called Orioles podcast. I'm Amari Pollard here with
Kia Swin,
Rachel Fowler,
and Janae Price.
Yes, so let's get into it. Kia, what's good for this week in Black history?
Okay, y'all. This week in Black history, we have July 30th, 1863. And I thought this was really interesting because President Abraham Lincoln issued what was called an eye for eye order, warning the Confederacy that the Union soldiers would shoot a rebel prisoner for every black prisoner they shot. It also would condemn a rebel prisoner to a life of hard labor for every black prisoner sold into slavery.
Wow.
Literally had no idea about this, but I was like, that's interesting. Even though, like, imagine if we did that today.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy because as soon as you say eye for eye, I think of, like, Hammurabi's Code. Did you guys learn about that, like, in history back in the day where it's, like, eye for an eye?
The different philosophies.
Literally, yeah. I don't know. I thought about that.
And then I read a little more into it, and it, like, kind of worked, but, like, not really, because the Confederacy, like, started, obviously killed a lot of black people. And,
obviously.
Yeah. But, I mean, I was like, wow, what a way to, like, if you're not going to do it, we're going to do it, like, shoot you. Mm-hmm. Obviously not the best way to run a country, but in 1863, I don't know what they were thinking.
I mean, maybe it was a little bit of a foreshadowing because wasn't Lincoln's party the Republican Party?
Yeah.
And now the Republican Party is kind of violent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it was like switched back then. But
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, wow, what an interesting law. And then July 31st, 1981, attorney Arnett R. Hubbard was installed as the first woman president of the National Bar Association.
Hey.
That's pretty impressive for 1981, I guess. Yeah.
That's pretty late. 1981?
Yeah, I thought it was at 1960. Okay, yeah, 1961, but yeah, that is kind of late.
It's kind of late, but, like, we're still doing a lot of firsts now in
I mean,
2019.
last year you had the first black person on the cover of, what was it, Vogue, Vanity Fair?
Yeah, Beyonce.
Beyonce,
right?
yeah.
Wait, no. Seriously?
Vogue.
It was last year?
Was it last year? Yeah, that was last year.
Either the first black I don't think it was first black person.
It was
photographer. Excuse
I was
me,
gonna say,
y'all.
there's no
First black photographer. My bad.
So, like, screw Vogue, whenever. Well, that's it for this week in Black history.
Okay, my turn. Okay, so this week on Black Professionals We Love, sorry to bring it down, folks, but I really want to highlight Cameron Boyce. So a few weeks ago, the world lost Cameron Boyce, who was a very kind, young, talented actor who had so much life to live. And I knew of Cameron because of his role in Grown Ups. He played Adam Sandler's son, and I also caught a few clips of him in Disney Channel shows when I would babysit my neighbors. He was in Bunked, Jessie, and the Disney Channel movies, The Descendants. So he recently passed away, and I think he had epilepsy or something. Well, he passed away from a seizure, and he just had, like, a lot. He was just very talented. Like, he could dance, he could sing, and he was only 20. But I just wanted to highlight his life. And not only was he an actor, but he was very philanthropic. He was involved in multiple projects, such as the Thirst Project, which was to bring clean water to underdeveloped countries, United Way to fight homelessness. And It's on Us to fight against sexual assault on college campuses. Let me remind you, this boy was just 20 years old. And my heart just, like, really breaks for him and his family. And yeah, so people say, I've been thinking about this a lot. It's like people say life is long, and I just think that's a very false statement. Life is long if you are lucky, and unfortunately, a lot of us don't know if we're the lucky ones until we reach old age. So just, like, do what you can with the days you have, and I just want to thank Cameron for being an exceptional example of Black excellence, and more importantly, just an incredible human being.
Rest in peace, Cameron.
Rest in peace. Rest in power.
Hey.
Okay, so let's get into this week's topic, which is traveling while Black. What do we have to say?
Well, I went to Spain in March. Yeah, March. I don't know why I'm acting like I don't know. It was literally...
You know, girl.
I know. I remember.
We were all getting, like, T-minus X days until Spain.
Yeah, I was very, very excited to go. But this topic, and just in general, I brought to the group, and I was like, we need to do a show about this, because it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. It opened my eyes to a lot of just the small privileges Americans have. And then it also opened my eyes to, as a person of color, how difficult it may be to go to another country. And while I was there, it was just a lot of blatant racism.
Okay, well, now, was this your first time traveling out of the U.S.?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. This was my
I'm so sorry this was your first experience. I didn't realize.
This was my very first time traveling outside of the U.S. Now, I had had my passport for like years, because I think we were supposed to take a family trip years and years ago, but it didn't end up happening. This is my very first time traveling outside of the U.S., and I went with my sister and my 2 cousins, and we were excited. Like, we were texting constantly, planning everything. I made an entire doc with all of the different places we were supposed to be going. We finally get there. We're nervous, trying to figure out how to get to our Airbnb. We look like we have no clue what we were doing, which we didn't. We got totally lost on the way to our Airbnb. But the moment we get to the area where we were staying, Plaza de Mayor, people were just staring at us. And we were like, I was trying to be very positive, and I was like, people are staring at us because we look like tourists. We're carrying suitcases. All of us had fanny packs. And personally, I was traveling with a fanny pack because I'm like, this is a fashion statement. Fanny packs are in fashion right now. And also, they'll help you from, getting pickpocketed or whatever. But people were just staring at us. And I was like, this might not be so great. Now, mind you, I'm tall, as I've said, I think every episode by now. And my 2 cousins are also very tall. And just in general, in my family, we're all bigger people. So people are just giving us weird looks. And I was like, okay, it's just because it's a group of tourists looking big people. So then basically throughout the entire trip, the staring got worse. It got to the point where it was like grown men gawking at us as we walked down the street, people laughing at us, people treating us like we were stupid, men being very suggestive.
Didn't you say you were propositioned a few times?
Not outwardly, but it was like men staring and jeering, and it would be like in the daytime, it would be guys like shocked looking at us. Mm-hmm. And then we'd go to a club or something, and it's like men pulling at us and stuff like that. And it was just it was just surprising. Mm-hmm. It was like, I did not expect this. I assumed that I would be treated as an American first, because that's what I heard from a lot of other people that have traveled to other countries, that it's kind of like, once they find out you're an American, you're just treated as an American, not a Black American. So I did not do my research. I just thought, hey, I'll be treated as an American.
Who was saying that? Well, I know I said it, but like who, like were other people Black saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like, okay.
Well, okay. My best friend, she said that, right? And then once I came back and I told more Black people about my experience, they were like, and more Black people who are well-traveled, a lot of them said, I don't go to Spain for that reason. It was funny because I went to a doctor's appointment right when I came back, because I actually got sick on the trip. So when I came back, I started talking to the doctor about traveling. She laughed because she does solo travel. She's been all over the world. And she was like, that is an area that I will not go. I went to Madrid, by the way. And she was like, specifically for that reason.
The doctor is Black.
Oh, wow. Yes, the doctor is Black. And she was like, I will not go to Madrid. And I think she told me, she shared a story about a friend, I think she said, that went to somewhere else in Spain. And the friend was more heavy set. And she said she had the same experience where she was getting stared at, pointed at, laughed at. And
I think sometimes, I could be wrong, so like, don't quote me, but I think a lot of Americans tend to think of Spain, almost not necessarily think of Spain, but think of like Spanish people as the equivalent to Latina people and Hispanic people, but it's very different.
Yeah, Spain is Europe.
Spain is Europe. Like, I think
for Columbus.
They consider themselves more like white Europeans. Yeah. And definitely the way Spanish people view people from Central Latin America they're not on equal playing fields. So
And see, that's what I did not think about. I did not think of the history of racism. I did not think of the history of Spanish people literally going to South America. And
I said Christopher Columbus.
yeah. Why am I thinking he was Italian?
No, I'm pretty
he's
sure he's
Spanish. And I did not think of that history of the conquistadors taking over literal areas. I think it's Madrid. I looked this up while I was there, actually. But they have a festival where they wear blackface.
Yeah.
And while I was
That's
there,
Netherlands, I think. Right?
Spain has it too.
I think it's multiple countries who
the
do
colonizers
celebrate blackface.
the colonizers weren't just out of England.
Well, no, it's England,
Italy,
Spain, and France were like
France,
the most three
France.
that owned like majority of the world.
And then got split up.
Yeah.
And my just being stupid and green, just excited to go outside of the country.
Which is how you should be able to look at travel.
It's devastating that we have to think about that and we still get treated and wherever we go. Like you want to travel to these places to learn about the culture, learn about the people, and you're being judged.
You literally come to appreciate another culture.
We have to think about where we travel.
And the history of it. But I will want to jump in and say, like, I had the exact opposite experience at Madrid. But there could be multiple factors thinking about this. I feel like I pumped you up to be excited about Madrid, and I'm always like, Team Madrid. That's my favorite place in the entire world.
I thought it was Barcelona that was your favorite.
I hate Barcelona.
Barcelona.
No, because I think I stayed in Madrid for a month. So I was super excited because I love Madrid. I stayed there for a month and I was like Team Madrid. And I think people always go to Barcelona, but I personally think Madrid has a little more culture and history. Like Madrid, it's not by the beach, but there's so much to do in Madrid with castles and going on the lake. Or honestly, I don't know what the names of a lot of these things are, but it was amazing. And churros and chocolate, and you get like the history and like the old buildings and stuff. So I was super excited for you when you said you were going to Madrid.
It was beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong. Everything I looked at, the food I tasted, the places I went, I was like, this is fantastic. But it was just constantly
the social structure.
The social structure of it all, and going outside and knowing today I'm going to be pointed at and laughed at and looked at.
Which,
just like,
that sucks. And like, I think the difference, so when you told me that, I asked you about like why you felt like you were getting all those things. And for me, it's like, okay, I'm not super tall, or like outwardly, like that person looks different besides my skin color. So that could be one factor. Another factor, I went there to study abroad. So I went with a group of people from my college.
Were they mostly white?
They were mostly actually not white. They were actually mostly Spanish, like Latin people. So I went with majority like Spanish Latin people. And then there was a couple of white people here and there. And there was two black people, me and another girl who's a lot darker skinned. She's African descent. And she has like a lot darker skin than me. So it's us two, a lot of like Spanish people, and then a couple white people. So it was like a diverse group. And then I went with people who had spoke the language. Like I said, most of them speak Spanish. So they were speaking for me. So I didn't have to do a lot. And I went there with like expectations of like, sometimes I forget I studied abroad there because I was really there to like party. I was 19. I could drink there legally. I was there to party.
That's why everyone goes to study abroad. They go to drink legally and they go to travel.
Exactly. And so I had the mindset of like, this is what I'm going to do. I told my parents like, listen, I'm trying to find a husband in Spain. I'm partying. I'm doing whatever. And then like my mom had to remind me like, you need to bring school stuff, you dummy. So I was with their like intentions of like party 24/7, which I did. But I did not get any stares unless I was too happy in the mindset to like ignore the stares. So I don't know if it was just like if I would have gone now with like you guys and it was a planned trip and whatever, but I was just like, this is the happiest time of my life. So I think maybe I was blindsided by that. With guys, I still don't remember like guys like staring at me or like coming up to me any type of different than it would be in America. Again, don't know if I was just blind to a lot of these things. I don't remember people like staring at me, pointing at me, whatever. That also, I mean, we're the same skin tone, so maybe not so much. And my hair was like braided. So I just don't remember getting a lot. But I will say the white girls who were there, they felt one felt like out of place because she is blonde.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say that.
So sorry.
I just want to say that because she was the one that felt out of place, not me. Like
wow.
and I, like we would go out, and me, my the other black girl and another darker Spanish girl would get the most attention. Not so like, oh my god, look at this person like a freak, but more so like this person is different and beautiful in the eyes of like Spanish men. So that's what we were getting. And then the white girl was like, she literally was like, no one in Spain has blonde hair. A lot of people don't have blonde hair. A lot of people have like brown or like light brown or dark brown hair. And she was like, I dyed my hair platinum blonde for this trip. I thought they would love me here. Wow. And I need to dye it down.
No one in Spain has an afro.
Yeah. Like, no, she's very ignorant. But she was just like, wow, I'm not getting any attention. She actually got like really jealous of us because we were getting more
all
the
attention.
Yeah, she had a boyfriend too. That's another story. But yeah, but I just think it's really interesting how our experience are different, but there could be a lot of factors going into that as well.
I think so. And I think people underestimate the power of the people where you are and how that can influence your time. Like when I think about all the places I've traveled, like I remember certain environments and certain spots that we went to, but most of the things I remember, it's the way people made me feel on that trip. Mm-hmm. Like, I love Ireland because the people were so warm towards me, and I felt very loved during my time, both of the times that I went there, versus when I went to Paris. Mm-hmm. I just felt stupid. Like, mostly my sister would try to speak French to the locals because she was taking French, and they just made her just feel really dumb. They were just kind of rude, would brush us off, and then would try to, like, just like scam us, like try to like raise prices that we know aren't that expensive. And I hated Paris. I didn't like Paris. And it wasn't until we left the city and went to Lyon where people were a little bit nicer, where I was like, oh, maybe Paris isn't that bad. But it's definitely, I think, the people that, not just with you on that trip, but
the people in the country.
The people in the country that have the ability to shape how you feel about your experience.
I agree, because when I went to Mexico, 2 years ago, I had that same experience. The people were warm. They were lovely. I did not want to leave, and I didn't feel like out of place. And despite what Trump says about the country Mexico, they were lovely people. And
they have the best people.
They were great. They were lovely. They were great. And and I think that definitely can make or break your trip.
Oh,
100%.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, we'll talk about domestic travels a little later in the episode, but for domestically, like, New Orleans was, like, one of my favorite places because the people and everyone constantly asks, like, how are you loving the city? Do you love the city? It's a city treating you well? And I'm like, no one would say that in New York. Like, is New York treating you well? Like, I don't know.
We don't care.
We don't care.
On that note, though, it was so weird because in Spain, we met this English couple, this black English couple. Now, automatically, I walked up to them and introduced myself because I had not seen black people in a week. And I was like, oh, yes, black people. So I walked up to them, introduced myself, and we were just talking about culture. We were talking about how we've kind of had a weird time. And they were talking about how outward and friendly Americans are. And in America, you don't hear that. In America, when you hear about people being friendly, you hear about Southerners at like most. But they were talking about how Americans, when you walk into a store, they say hello, they greet you. And they had just come from like a tour of America, going to like all the way from like Nashville to New York and stopping in tons of cities in between. And they were talking about how in European countries, you don't really insert yourself into places by introducing yourself. You just kind of get in, get out. That's it.
I think that's a very interesting point you made about how like, they would go to stores and people were friendly and stuff. But in America, you're aware of the duality of that. You're friendly to me because you want to keep an eye on me.
Very true.
Or you just, I feel like usually it's me, it's like you're either really friendly for like, I don't know if I trust it, or you just don't acknowledge my presence. Like,
or you just want a sale.
Right, or you want the sale.
Yeah.
If you're smart, you'll be nice because you want the sale.
That's true.
But yeah.
Kia, you had a weird China experience?
Yeah, so similar to yours, I think. So China was definitely the biggest cultural difference of all the places I've been to. I've been to Madrid, I've been to DR, Bahamas, Prague, but China was definitely, which I kind of knew going into it, like this is going to be a big difference. And just like culturally with even talking as just like strictly an American person, like Chinese people, like I don't want to say they're rude, but like what we consider rude, they consider normal. So like we were in line and they'll just cut you. So like on the airplane, there's a line and we all have to go to the bathroom. And this old Chinese man, I took like a Chinese flight, just cut the entire line, went right in. And like for him, that's normal. Sorry, my friend is calling me. Okay. I was like, what is that?
She's just so popular.
So then I was like, that was my first thing. Like, okay, I read about Chinese culture because I have a Chinese friend and she was like, just so you're aware, like people, you might think it's rude, but for them it's normal.
It's like elders for that situation, right? It's like if you're older, you can do stuff like that. No biggie, right?
Yeah, I think so because he was older. And then another time we were in a Chinese market and same thing happened. Guy just, I think it was a woman. She just had cut the line to get food. And this is where I'm like, Americans, I don't know how I feel about this. So like that woman did that and this white American was like, hey, you cut the line. But like, in my opinion, like that's her culture. So you don't get to tell her how to act in her country.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
that's her culture, it's rude to you because you're an American. But I'm going to like mind my business. Like I'm not going to go up to this guy and scold him because I think it's rude. It's not rude in his country. I'm a visitor in your country. But I guess white people don't think like that. I don't know. So that was the first thing where it's like, okay, a little rude. A lot of like spitting, coughing, stuff like that where like you would think like that's nasty. They don't think that's nasty. So you're just around food like that. And, you know, they have a lot of stinky food and it's not stinky to them. Like, so that was a lot of things that I had to like get used to. And especially with the food, it's like they like bones in their meat and they think that's like the best part of the meat, a lot of bones. And
because it is. That bone marrow is good.
so that's what they think. Okay. And like when they cook duck, it's like I'll see a menu, it's the whole duck. I see the face of the duck, they'll present you the face of the animal. And by the time I would look at the menu, I would be disgusted, so I didn't want to eat. And a lot of oil vegetables and stuff like that. So it was a big culture difference for me, just like speaking as an American culture. And then as a black person, they kind of treat you like, I want to say like a celebrity because they don't see a lot of black people there. So they look at you as different and they want to capture that. So like so many times I would just be walking down the street, walking with a group and people would be like, come up to me and be like, signal like, can I have a picture? Can I have a picture? And I'd be like, okay, like whatever, this is cute. And it feels like very like celebrity. And sometimes people won't even ask you for a picture. They'll be like, you'll just see someone like a paparazzi like taking a picture of you and you're like, bro, what the hell? And it was all the black people in the group because there was like, I went with like a travel group. And then a lot of times they also just take pictures if they think you're pretty. So like my roommate who's a white woman, they just like would take pictures of both of us because they just say like pretty. Like they'll just be like, pretty or pretty, take a picture with you, whatever. And at first it was like cool because it's like, oh, I'm different, I feel like a celebrity. But then at times I got like tired because I'm like, damn, I could never be famous because this shit is annoying. So at one point it's like, okay, I want to like enjoy my vacation. And then it's just like, that's a lot, just like taking pictures. And then it can kind of feel like, okay, you're like taking picture like you just seen like a wild animal in a zoo or something like that. So that was like one experience that was really different. Plus, a lot of people don't speak English in China, which I underestimated, except in Shanghai, because that's a more modern city. So that was my experience with China. So I'm on a bunch of people, like random Chinese people's phones, because they just took random pictures of me and I'm just like with them.
That's like it's like so unappealing to me, and I think that's why.
Yeah, you would probably hate it. Like, some people will probably hate it.
Like Japan and like China they're very much on my list of places to go to, but they're probably at the bottom because I'm just like, I know I would get annoyed if people are taking pictures of me. I don't want to feel like a spectacle. Yes, I am black, and maybe you don't see that a lot, but like a lot of white people go to Jamaica, where my family's from,
they don't
take pictures. Again, I think it's I was telling you guys earlier, I think it's just a level of curiosity that I just don't have. I just like don't care enough to like.
I think that's like a good point because it's like, yeah, when you guys come or when white people come to like Mexico or DR and stuff, I don't know if it's just because like they are educated about white people. I don't know, like, because it's like not the same. And I think it's like a weird dynamic because I remember like my ex-boyfriend was like, yeah, my parents when they came to America, they like went up to this black girl and just stared at her, and like he was like, well, they didn't know anyone in Poland, they'd never seen a black person before. And I'm like, to me that's not the first response of like you not seeing someone in this stage and age that you come up them and stare at them.
What was your like did you express that to him?
Oh, I explained like why it was wrong. Trust me. And he knew it was wrong too, but he was just like kind of defending his parents. Like, well, they didn't know they're from Poland. There's no black people in Poland.
I think it's just a weird cultural barrier.
Yeah.
And I honestly do not know if it's right or wrong. Because if I put it this way, if a sparkly alien that had skin like diamonds that glowed green and fell from the sky, was the most beautiful, fantastic thing I ever saw. I'm equating this to black women. Fell from the sky, I might be tempted to take a picture. But that's an alien, so they look different from you. A human looks like a human. Mm-hmm. The only difference
we don't know what aliens look like.
Yeah, the only
I know what a black.
Exactly.
I know what a white person. I know what a black person. I know what an Asian person looks like. It's just weird.
You know what a person looks like. You don't need to see that person in person and need to take a picture and make them feel like they're an outsider.
I mean, like, not to totally like switch it. I think it's just interesting because most of my life I've traveled in the Caribbean, and I appreciate the way, I appreciate being born to a family that could afford to let me travel outside of the country so often. But I liked that my parents first introduced me to traveling, and it was just making our way through the Caribbean. So like my first introduction to people of other countries were just black and brown people. So in my mind, I'm thinking like the whole world is like this. But I was mentioning this to you guys earlier, is that like I thought it was interesting is that when I go to other countries, I feel more American in those other countries than I necessarily do
100%
in America. Even like my parents are Jamaican, and I go to Jamaica, and I'm very much aware that I am not Jamaican. I am of Jamaican parents, but me, myself, I am not technically Jamaican.
That was a huge wake-up call in Spain. It actually made me feel happy to be an American.
Yeah.
For like the first time ever.
And it's crazy. And Ta-Nehisi Coates, if you haven't read his book, Between the World and Me, please read it. You should have already done it, but like, I'll forgive you. He really touched on that, I think, when he was traveling to Paris, is that he had never fully felt like an American in America, but when he went to another country, he was very much aware of his Americanness. And that's just kind of, it's like a blessing, but like also very sad.
Yeah. I also wonder like how that would be experienced if I went to Africa, because I hear a lot of people saying like people in Africa like will look at you differently, one, because your skin is really light, so they don't like you again don't look like people there because you're an outsider.
They already know that you're not from
they already know that you're not from Africa, when like those are your roots and where you are from. And like I've heard people like say like they don't treat light skinned people that well there either, so that's another fear, even though it's like, well, I would kind of like to experience where my ancestry is from, but like I don't want to feel really crappy about it either.
Which is like also like the irony, because
it is
they don't treat. I think also it depends on which country.
It depends on which country you go to.
In Africa, because you also like when you think about the history between in Rwanda, you have the Tutsis versus the Hutu. I can never remember, but like usually light skinned people were preferred in that situation. Or there's this whole internal struggle, which let's remind people, it was the colonizers who put the conditions of colorism on us. So like it's a way to keep us separate. So let's remember that we all are one people. But yeah, I think that's just like an
I think Africa's one place that I will go to no matter what I hear. Like,
I will still go. I'm just scared.
I would still go.
No, go, but also like I'm not of the faith where everyone's like, oh yeah, I went to Africa. I'm like, y'all went to South Africa, the whitest country.
I'm not gonna brag that I went to South Africa.
Like, let's go to like the real like motherland. Let's go to like Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Ghana. Like Ghana, I bet like most like West Africa is mostly from West Africa.
Yeah, most American slaves are from like West Africa area, Ghana,
yeah, I mean, I'm dark, so I'm not African, but I'm not American.
But you can't. But you could pass as African. Like someone can't be like, you're definitely Jamaican.
No, I mean, I feel like people would look at me and be like, you're Black American.
Yeah,
really?
Just like,
they would say you're Black American.
I can
there's
look.
different features.
There's different features because we can look at people from Africa. Like I can look
and tell.
at a person who is obvious. Like I can see if you're from
right.
Africa.
Like I look at met Rachel, I was like, that's a Caribbean girl. She's of Caribbean descent.
Do that with Caribbean people.
I can do that with Caribbean people.
I cannot do that with Caribbean.
I can do that with Africans.
I cannot. I can do that with African people. I can tell African from African American, but Caribbean, I am not that
Caribbean, and maybe
talented yet.
I think it's mostly because like people will look at Americans and like, so like someone might like ask Rachel like what, like Rachel, what are you? And I'll look at Rachel and be like, she's mixed because not mixed of like white and black or white and Chinese or something, but mixed as in Caribbeans are very mixed people. We have Indian, we have African, we have European. So a lot of us tend to look jumbled because it's just like, that's what we are. We're just a mixed people.
I still have to do an ancestry test. I need to know.
do it. I took one and I got a bunch of different things. And then like 6 months later, they were like, oh, just kidding, you got these things, and it was completely different. So now I really don't know, and I should sue out.
Don't take the test because the whole point of the test is so they can get your data on you. That's really actually the thing.
Yeah,
They already
whatever.
have all our data. If you have Twitter, if you have
already have
Facebook,
it.
you can talk about shopping somewhere and then open Instagram and
Your
it'll be on there.
thumbprint when you open your phone.
They got you.
They
got
like
you.
some blood or some shit.
Yeah,
got you.
no, it's just saliva.
You've
I don't
given
think they
blood to the doctor's
How much
office.
saliva are they keeping?
got you.
Like, I don't trust them.
They got you.
Okay, but before we get too off on that, we should talk about domestic travel for a bit. Like, what have our experiences been traveling in the U.S.? Rachel, I know, like you said, you've like traveled within the U.S. a bit.
Yeah, so far it's been great because I just stay like in the East Coast. I'm afraid to like go to the South and like certain parts of the states because of racism. Like I have to like really do research and really consider like what parts of certain states that I would travel to because it's dangerous. Like you hear stories all the time about people getting shot and killed because of the color of their skin. So I, for the time being, just rather stay close to where I know it's predominantly black.
I think it's like interesting because I think a lot of people associate like the South. It's either like it's like two very polar descriptions. It's like you either get very nice, friendly Southern people, or you get they're just like
It just depends.
racist heart. And it just depends. And I think I'm more curious now to explore the South. But like I don't know why I got in my head I want to go to Pittsburgh. I was like because of one of my favorite books is The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and
that
it's
book.
based in Pittsburgh, and the film was shot in Pittsburgh. I was like, this just looks like a
Pennsylvania is really racist.
Yeah,
right, but I didn't
100%.
I didn't like make
racist.
the connection. I was just
And
like,
parts of Boston.
right, well, Boston, yeah. I was just like, I just want to go see the Perks, and then we ended up going into a restaurant, and no one acknowledged us, and we're like, can we go like eat? And like we don't want like a table, we just would want like a bar top or something. The bar, we saw these high tables and we're like, oh, it's like right next to the bar, we can sit. No one addressed us, like no one came up and asked us for our order. And then when someone did, she was like, oh, but you said you were sitting at the bar. I'm like, well, no one explained to us that we couldn't sit at a high top table. And then we watched for 30 minutes as that woman took everyone's order in the restaurant except for ours.
Wow.
And it was just like, it's like one of those things where it's not blatant racism, but I know you. And,
That's
and
that
it's just
PA
disrespect.
racism.
Yeah, and
Sorry, just saying. 'cause
and
I'm from,
everyone in-
like near PA.
Everyone in there was just white, and I'm just like, okay, so it's clear. And then, ironically enough, I think it was like a week and a half later, they had the synagogue shooting, and I was like, wow.
That's that northern racism. I'm just gonna say, growing up near Pennsylvania, like the state border, it's like no one's like gonna outwardly call you the N-word, but people are gonna make you feel a little uncomfortable here and there.
My family's very Southern. We used to go to Mississippi every 2 years or something like that. And it's crazy because our summers spent going down south were great. To be real with you, people were very nice. Things moved slower. And of course, people stared at us a lot. Like we got the occasional stares, but they were never met with tons of hostility. It was just it's obvious that big black people are in the room. Moving on. So I'll say that my experiences traveling down south, which I've been to the deepest of Mississippi, I've been to New Orleans, I've been to Florida, the Virginias.
Florida's not just race. Florida is just Florida is where all the crazy people go.
Yeah, I just don't even consider that the
think
South. That's like a whole other country.
That's
but-
just a whole nother. They're on a whole nother playing field. But I think like especially when it comes to traveling and just like I guess like just the demographics of America, I think we need to really think about our language and the way we preface things. I think it's dangerous the way we're like, okay, the South is racist.
Right.
The North is liberal.
I should clarify parts of the South.
Oh, right.
Not just
no,
the
no,
entire...
I just think like America as a
Rachel.
whole. No, I think the way people, I think it's like, it's just kind of like, I think the way people describe certain areas, it's like we forget because then we associate these places with this kind of thinking and we go there and it's like, you're hit with the exact opposite. I think it's like the whole narrative that like the whole issue with America is just old white men. And I'm like, no, it's not just old white men.
Teach their children.
It's the young white men. And like, let's not forget like white women are complicit in certain things and like all this stuff. So it's like we need to really think about the way we frame things, because I think we get into this mindset where we're safe and it's like it's only a certain group, and then once that group is dead and like died off, like we're all good. And that's
also the history of that is like, I have my grandma's from Alabama, and she just mentions like, oh, a lot of people say that like, you know, the North was not racist back then. North was like the Union and the Confederate. But she was like, yeah, when I moved to New Jersey, like there was still a lot of segregation here, and I dealt with a lot of racism. And I moved here from Alabama to New Jersey to get, you know, away from that. But it's like a lot of people don't think about that, and you're not taught that in school. So I just wanted to like mention that with history.
It's hard to avoid racism when a country is built on racism. So
just quickly before we get too far off, I prepared like a little list of 8 places that are more Black friendly and 8 places that are a little less Black friendly. Disclaimer, this is all from Google searches, personal blogs. Everyone will have a different experience. Just like Kia's experience in Madrid was way different than my experience in Madrid, everyone is going to have a slightly different experience. So 8 good places to travel. I got Singapore, Canada, the United Arab Emirates, Portugal, Belgium, Scotland, and Cuba. And then 8 of the worst places to travel: Russia, Greece, Germany, Spain, Italy, Thailand, China, and South Korea.
And these are places for Black
Thailand
people.
Thailand is the only one I was surprised about on that list.
And these
I'm disappointed by.
Very.
These are places that like a lot of people have talked about on blogs. People have just basically shared their bad experiences in these places, or their great experience in these places. And there were tons of African countries that were on the good places list, but I figured I would exclude Africa because if we're going to go anywhere,
it's the motherland.
I feel like we would have more positive experiences.
Obviously,
in Africa.
Canada, because they're like,
obviously.
I'm actually surprised about Cuba, just because their history with America, and then also like the lights. And Cubans tend to be actually like more Republican and conservative. Just fun fact in the politics space. So that actually surprised me. But I'm excited for United Arab Emirates because I'm going to Dubai in September. Ooh. So that is awesome. And then Greece, I'm going next year, hopefully. So I'm a little scared because Greek people, I've had experiences here in America where it's super racist. But that's a whole nother story. Okay, on to Rachel.
Hey everyone, it's Rachel here. And on this segment, Time to Talk Mental Health, I want to discuss the importance of traveling and how it's a part of self-care. I came across this article on resettheritual.com titled Why Mindful Travel is an Essential Addition to Your Self-Care Plan. I'm not going to read the entire article, but I will point out the 6 reasons why mindful travel should be a regular part of your self-care plan. Number 1, it's mindfulness in practice, meaning it allows us to be present in real time. 2, it empowers you to choose your own path. 3, it ignites your intuition. 4, it makes you more creative. 5, it sparks curiosity, which can lead to finding your passion. And 6, it boosts compassion towards ourselves and the world. And here are 2 quotes from this article that stood out to me and I thought I should share. 1, traveling makes you realize there's a freedom in your smallness. And 2, when you travel mindfully, your intention is less about escaping your daily life and more about enriching it. Hey. So, in conclusion, plan ahead, save your money, do your research, and remember the world is bigger than you think. Take your time to learn about the world around you. And even if you feel like, as a Black person, there's like so many restrictions when it comes to traveling, don't let that stop you. I'm not going to let, certain things that I hear about traveling to certain states or even country prevent me from seeing the world. Yes, I'll do my research, and yes, I would take extreme caution. And even if you know that traveling will make you happy, do it because you deserve to be happy. So, so I'm definitely going to put more time and effort and research and take more time to time for myself to travel, because we all deserve to take that break from this busy city called New York.
Or wherever. Just
Wherever.
life. Just life.
Just life in general.
Yes.
So that's all for mental health.
Sorry, I'm curious.
Yes.
Rachel, what's like what's your number one spot on like the places in the world you want to go to?
For me right now, it was Thailand.
Is it still Thailand after today?
Yes, it is.
Thailand.
You should still go anyway.
Yeah, because
I'm going to. I'm probably
They
going
say
to.
Thailand is like pretty inexpensive to
I
travel
always
in.
watch blogs and read blogs about people of color going to Thailand, and they talk about having like a really good experience. So I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna go for
Nah,
myself.
you do that.
Yeah.
And to be real, just to like piggyback off of what you said, like I know the list, all of the negative experiences in life you can have as a person of color, but I don't care.
Yeah, you still gonna travel.
Yeah.
I'm still going to Asia. Although people might take pictures of me and might look at me like I'm a weirdo, and an old person might cut me in line, but I'm gonna still do it.
Because the good, at the end of the day, the good outweighs the bad of
It
the
does
trip.
100%.
Oh no, yeah, like
it does.
for sure. And I think like I'm pretty happy with the person I am today because my parents exposed me to so many cultures growing up, and I had a very good understanding of where I come from, what other people deal with in other countries, and it gave me more of an appreciation. Also, just like an understanding of human beings in general.
It's about the experience and learning about, the people who live in this beautiful world.
And just some tips, sorry, before we go to Janae, I just wanted to put the little tips out for our people. Okay, so Travel Noir is like a great blog and Instagram post or Instagram account for traveling Black people, and they do a newsletter where they like give you like updates and like the top Black travelers. And for women, they have Expat Women of Color, Black Girls Travel Too, and Girls Love Travel on Facebook. Those are groups. Part of Girls Love Travel. It's just a really good group, and people post like all different places they've been to, and it's like thousands of people. So those are good resources, particularly for women and women of color. And also, if you think you are like too poor to travel, trust me, I feel you. But the reason that I'm able to travel is because my roommate told me about travelzoo.com, and literally that is how I've gone on every international vacation since college. From travelzoo.com, went to China, $1,000 round trip, everything paid for.
God,
Hotel, everything. Went to Prague for $500.
She sounds like she sounds and looks like Hassan Minaj right now. Like, she's like, yo,
that's
you can
my boy.
You can go. You can get this. Yeah, you can't see my arm movements, but I look like
That's my ultimate dream job. So thank you. That actually really made my day.
There was an opening the other day.
I like it. Yeah, they always have openings. I'm always on that.
I want to. Yeah, I love him. I also like. He's married, but like,
Yo, he's fine.
He's so good looking. Okay.
Janae.
Hello everyone. This is Janae with a word of advice. Just full disclosure, y'all. We were recently trying to like name our little segments and stuff.
It was hard.
Mine was easy.
Yeah. And I think, was it me and Omari at
Yeah,
the same time?
at the same time we
were
came
like,
up-
a word of advice.
No, I think no, it was Janae's Corner.
Janae's Corner. You said that
it was
sucked.
Janae's.
Yeah, I thought it was cute.
Yeah.
Well,
You're like responsive. She was like, "Oh my god, Janae's Corner." You were like, "Oh my god, Janae's Corner sounds stupid" or something, and it was like, "Oops."
well, anyway, today a friend of the podcast, Gabby, just kind of sent over some of her experiences that she's had traveling abroad. So I just wanted to tell her story. Shout out to you, Gabby. Hope you're doing well. Love you, girl. Thanks. She said the first time I ever traveled out of the country, I went to Fiji. This was in 2006 or 2007, and I was 11. At the time, there weren't a lot of Black American stars that were internationally known. I was the only Black kid on the trip, too. It was a student trip with a bunch of middle school kids from Colorado, so I quite literally stood out. I told all the Fijian kids that I was from DC, but they were like, no, you're from Africa. I'm African American, so yes, technically, I am from Africa, but I have no idea where in Africa I'm from. So I kept insisting to them that I was American. And they kept telling me that I wasn't American and called the white kids from Colorado American. And finally, I had to ask my host sister why she didn't think I was American. And she said, "You don't look like the girls from Friends." The whole point of my trip was to share cross-cultural perspectives with people who were different than I was. But it was incredibly difficult to share my experience as an American because the media already decided it for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Media representation is important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
And again, the cast from Friends does not even look like the cast from Friends. Years will go by. Just look at their faces. Anywho. Yeah, so like that's it for this week's episode. This is Amari again. Thanks for tuning in. We'll say it. We've said it once and we'll say it again. Follow us on all social media at So-Called Oreos. You can email us also at SoCalledOreos@gmail.com. You can also listen to this podcast on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. And please rate us, leave your comments, subscribe, review. Just like talk to us, guys.
Yeah.
We love you.
We like it when you say hi.
I love it when you call me Big Papa. Janae's like judging me. Oh my god.
Okay, bye.
That's what I thought.
How could you? I thought everyone's going to sing.
I thought everyone was gonna sing.
I thought about it, but I was like, nah.
Y'all left us hanging.
What do y'all got against Victoria's B.I.G.?
A little bit.
Okay.
You probably didn't hear me.
I might edit this out. Bye.
Bye.